Hi, everyone. I'm very glad to be here today with you guys on this webinar. Here we have Alexander directly from our headquarters in Denmark. I'm very excited and very glad to have you all here and to be co-hosting this panel with a very dear colleague from Denmark. And I'm pretty sure we'll have a very enriching discussion today. So first of all, thank you all, and thank you especially Alexander for joining us today. It is a real pleasure to have you here with us. And let's start from the beginning. Why don't you present yourself to our attendees?
Yes, thank you, Guilherme. So yes, my name is Alexander Petersen. I am the head of revenue operations at Target. I have been with Target for almost 6 years now. So I began my journey here as a student employee, actually, within the marketing department. And I kind of took the journey between departments. So I moved to sales, where I became the sales operations manager. And last year, I was promoted to the head of revenue operations. So I am very much involved with a lot of things. And I'm working very cross-departmental. So I'm, besides being responsible for the partnership with Target Brazil, I'm also very much the one who are using our own BI solution in Target. Yes, I think that was a brief introduction to who I am and what I do at Target.
That sums it up. And what I find very interesting in your path in Target is that it is very similar to mine, because this is my fifth consecutive year at Target Brazil, and I also started as a student. I started as a support intern. I was in the help desk with our customers, and yeah, it's very nice. So Alexander, we are here to discuss a very interesting subject today, which is a comparison between the Latin American market and the global market when we talk about BI and analytics. Latin America is a very, as all other regions, is a very specific one with its own specific needs and aspects. And the point today is to bring to our attendees and to our customers and partners that are joining the event a brief comparison. So how do we compare to the global market? So I have some topics to discuss, so we can give a brief explanation. How do we compare? So, and to start to kick off our call or meeting, I would like to start with one simple question, and maybe the most important one. So how do customer demands for business intelligence and analytics solutions appear in Europe? Let's say, what are the main needs, the main customer demands you guys receive in Europe when in terms of BI analytics? What are the customers demanding from you guys?
I think there are two things to highlight here. There are usually two reasons when a customer approaches us. Of course, that's only one way of getting new customers. The other one is where we approach the customer. But when we hear from a customer, it's very common that it's due to a few things. One of the things is that the customer has a lot of data, and they don't really know how to handle all this data. Usually they work in Excel, and that can be very time consuming. I'm sure a lot of the attendees in this webinar knows about that. There's a huge difference between working in Excel and having a good functioning BI solution. So that is usually one thing, too much data and a lack of knowledge on how to really handle this. The other thing is usually because they hear from peers in other companies within the same industry, for example, that a BI solution is what they need. and they are in the market to look for specific vendor. Very often we see that Target is the chosen vendor in cases where we have a good value proposition. That may be due to the specific industry. Very often we see that customer approaches us because we already have clients within their industry where we have proven the value of BI. So in general, I would say that almost all companies that are from the SMB size and up, they are, if they don't already have a BI solution, they are definitely in the market for it. So the BI market in Europe is very mature, and especially after Microsoft launched their product some years ago, it became like almost a household thing to have a BI solution. So we also see that some companies, they have a little bit of experience with a BI solution, but that has usually been driven by like a self-service. So self-service BI is also a trending topic. But again, self-service BI is very difficult to have the a well-functioning governance around. So having a BI solution that is built on top of a data warehouse, built on a more structured process is usually where we see that the BI solution really adds value, not only to the individuals inside of a company, but to companies as a whole.
There is something very interesting in what you said. Here in Latin America, but especially in Brazil, we have this fake idea that everything outside our country is better, is always better. So we look especially to the developed countries, Europe, US, and so on, and we say, okay, everything there is better. And when the first topic that you mentioned caught my attention, because when you say that a lot of customers in Europe are still working with Excel, this is the same scenario we face here. We see companies still struggling to handle their data and to extract insights, and they are still working with Excel. And last year, we conducted a small market research, and what we found here is exactly the same scenario you have just described to us. Companies are still looking for and paying for the basic well done. So getting their data from the ERP systems and all the other systems they have in their organization, well handled in a data warehouse where they can create dashboards, create analysis, and take their insights. Their insights they so much need to have better decisions. So it's very interesting to see that despite the cultural and the budgetary differences we have from both regions, the struggle towards a data-driven organization is still the same need. So that's very, very interesting. And but yeah, I don't know. Yes, please.
Yeah, and I think the challenges that you may face and also the successes you have in South America are not that different from what we see in Europe or in North America. I mean, we also see, even though that the BI market is very mature in Europe and also especially in North America, this doesn't mean that we are nowhere near a point where BI is at the point where it should be. I can't remember if it was Forrester or Dresner, some of the larger analytics houses that published a report stating that it was only like 20% of the companies around the world who were actually data driven, and out of those 20%, they were only using 20% of the data they had available. And of course, it makes sense if you don't have all of your data, structured in the right way. and having something like a BI solution, for example, it can become an almost impossible and definitely a very tedious task to really gain value out of your data, because data is, and I think I can speak for all regions here, that that data is trending everywhere, and data is becoming more and more important, especially now that we also talking about AI and other trending topics. All of this is based on data. So making sure that you have, you gain full value of your data is really the key thing here, and no company has completed that journey yet. I don't think anyone working with BI believes that their solution is now complete, and they have all the data inside that they want, and everything is working just as they would like it to, because that's a that's a never-ending journey, and more data becomes available all the time, so you can always develop the solution you have in place if you are at a point in your analytics journey where you already have a BI solution that is up and running. That doesn't mean that it's complete.
2 hours ago, we just hosted another webinar in our event, talking about the customer journey, and we have just emphasized what you've just said, that it's a never-ending journey. So the bad news, let's say, for the companies that say, okay, now I have just implemented my BI solution, but bad news are it's a never-ending journey. You always have more things to do, and the good news as well is that it is a never-ending journey. So which means that you always have new possibilities and new data to explore, which means new insights, which means there is always an opportunity gap or a performance gap that you can identify to have better results in your company. And just to sum up this topic, based on what you said, would you say that companies are still learning what to do with their data?
Yes, definitely. I mean, there are.
Very interesting.
I think there are. I mean, it's almost limitless what you can do with BI. So I think even though you already have a good solution, I can assure you, there's someone out there that has something that is way more complex, and that is not necessarily the goal to have a complex BI solution that has all available data sources gathered in a data warehouse, because things can also be too complex. But I can also assure you that there is someone out there who are definitely using it better, and having found a way of using BI that you probably haven't thought of. I mean, we have, I don't know if you're aware of this in South America, but in Europe we have some very large airports as customers, and they are the most common thing for a BI solution, or the original thing, at least in Europe, was that it was built on top of an ERP solution. So you had all the financial numbers, and it was just easier to look up KPIs, performance, and stuff like that in a BI solution. But our airports, for example, they are they are actually reporting on, or not reporting on, because they are actually looking at dashboards that are almost updated real time. So they are running or operating the entire airport almost through a BI solution. So they know exactly how long do we need to wait to go through security? Do we go above a certain threshold? So it's almost like maybe you have customers doing the same within manufacturing, where you need to monitor all the belts, make sure that you reach the KPIs that are set, that you don't, that you have the operational efficiency that you want. So I mean, the options or the opportunities of using BI are almost limitless. It's just a matter of what industry are your company in, because of course it varies a lot from industry to industry. It's not all companies who want to monitor, every second on what is going on. For others, it's can be other things, but there's always a way to, refine what you're doing. And I don't think that's a matter of how mature the region you're in are. I mean, it's basically comes down to you as a company and you as a
company.
yeah. And I mean, the one responsible for the BI solution in a company is the one who decides how good a solution it is. It's not the market you're in. It's the one, it's you who are helping the customer, and it's also the customer. So the market shouldn't be a limitation here.
That's a very, very interesting conclusion. We talked a lot about analytics maturity yesterday. We opened the event with a talk on digital transformation, and yeah, so we have good cases here in the region. Let's, for example, we have a company, I believe it's from Argentina originally, which is called Mercado Libre. It would translate to something like free market, let's say. It's a marketplace company. And for example, here in São Paulo, which is the biggest city in Brazil, if you buy something in the morning, it can arrive at your house by the end of the day. And to operate that, they have a very deep and very refined data strategy and logistics, and a very rich data pipeline and a very rich data infrastructure to support these operation. And so, yeah, you're right. It's not the market that will limit you. It's the maturity. It's more related to the company than to the market. So, which leads me to the second question, which is, do you guys find companies that struggle with data quality, low investments in technology? Is this a scenario that you guys face as well? Because here in Brazil, well, it's basically we are in a SMB country, so the strength of our economy are the small and medium business. And when we work with them and when we help them during their BI journey, these are some of the difficulties we face. So we have some data sources that are not well structured. We have problems in data quality, and we have a very deep resistance when it comes to investment. For many companies, technology is still a support area. They do not see that as an important driver of performance, of strategy. It's just the IT guys that want to spend more money. Do you face this scenario as well? Do you see companies that have the same maturity? How do we compare to you in this sense?
I think we see the same in some cases, but sometimes it's also very much about in Europe. If you are at the size, as soon as your company has more than 20, 30 employees, and you are responsible for the tech stack, at some point the CEO, the CFO will go and poke you on the shoulder and say, okay, why don't we have a BI solution? So at some point there will be pressure going not downwards and up, but also upwards and down. So it's basically a must-have at a certain point. When you reach a certain size, whether it's based on revenue or headcount, you need a BI solution. It's just you can't compete with the other vendors similar to you without a BI solution, unless you have a lot of people hired for, like I said, manipulating Excel reports. But again, that's also costly. So I think you're referring to the economy a few times, and I mean, there's no doubt that the economy is, at least in Western and Northern Europe, is different than in South America. So companies pay quite a lot in Europe for BI, and also especially for the services. You know, it's very expensive. And usually we see companies, you know, when economy isn't too good, that they are usually a little more reluctant towards buying. But actually, I believe when you know when a company is struggling, you know, when you're just balancing on, you know, on the verge of, you know, are we going to have like red or black numbers at the end of the year, that is actually where I believe BI starts really gaining value. Because in good times, when you are, you know, making your numbers, revenue is good, you are, you know, you're earning money. I mean, BI is a nice to have, because it's nice to earn more. That's you know, that can be up for debate. Everybody wants that in the business world, but when you're just, you know, balancing, like I said, on the tip of, is this a minus or a plus, then BI can you know, can help you. You know, you need to have more insight into the business. You need to know, you know, what is the reason for this? You know, why are we not making a huge profit here? And
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. Is that it's just because there is something very, very interesting in what you've just said. The comparison between nice to have and a must have, and the difference I can see here, if we could start to elaborate on something, is that for many companies here, business intelligence is still seen as a nice to have. And even though the company is huge, you know, you doesn't matter the reference you use for that, even the revenue or the headcount. But as how can I say that? As absurd as it can be, we still see companies at more than 1 billion of revenue and more than the 500 people still working with Excel or still working with very limited BI. So let's say they have a Power BI just for you know, in order to get a sales report, and the difference I can see is that maybe it's culture, and we will talk about that as well. But for most of the companies here, not only BI but technology as a whole is still seen as a nice to have. So yeah, we can invest on that. It is nice to invest. They don't see that as a must have, as you just mentioned. So let's get on let's give some practical advices for our attendees here. What would you recommend for the companies? How can they change from seeing BI as a nice to have to a must have? What would you suggest? What kind of tips you can give us?
I think it's also a matter of, you know, that usually the market that most companies are in are getting like saturated. You know, they're becoming more and more companies doing the same. So if you want to be able to compete with other companies, you need to find that, you know, tiny edge. You know, you want to find the place where you have an advantage. And if you don't have a BI solution and you're a, you know, SMB, from SMB and up, I mean, I can assure you that most of your competitors who are maybe doing better than you, they have. So if not, I mean, if you don't think that it's necessary to have right now, it's maybe because actually that, you know, you don't understand the full value of BI. Because for some people, I think BI is just, you know, organizing your data and showing it in a different form. but I mean the potential and the possibilities of BI compared to Excel reports or just looking up in separate systems is it can be huge. I mean the time saved. I mean, here internally, we have been doing a pretty large internal IT project of migrating our CRM system. We had our own BI solution embedded into our old CRM solution. It was basically the same data as we had in the CRM solution, but because it took too much time of typing in, finding the right things, we just created a dashboard and embedded into our CRM solution where the sales reps had all the info they needed around pipeline, for example. As soon as we switched the CRM system, that part wasn't there, and all of the everyone within the commercial departments was almost crying for the BI dashboard to go live again, because that was what they used. They didn't use all of the data, and I mean a CRM solution has a lot of data, and it's usually designed around also being able to create reports. Just we were using Salesforce. Salesforce is considered as, for many, the best CRM solution for large organizations as well. But we weren't getting what we wanted in terms of having the right data in place. And I mean that's also why Salesforce bought a BI solution. I mean they bought Tableau, because sometimes it just isn't enough. You can't structure data the same way in other systems as you can in BI. So I mean that's why I believe if you have a lot of data, and almost every company around the globe right now has a lot of data. So if you have that, I mean there is value to gain by having a BI solution.
At the end, the upper management support to the implementation of BI, especially as you said, when you are facing a very deep competition, will be a game changer in this nice to have and must have mindset. And another interesting point that you have just highlighted is the user adoption. So when you mentioned the example of your sales reps that were desperate because they didn't have the dashboard with their pipeline and then forecast anymore, that's where we want to get. That's a must-have. And we were just discussing this yesterday. I was also hosting a panel on the subject, how to drive a better user adoption. And I was just demoing some of the features of the Target Decision Suite with it's very well designed to help that. So we have different ways of accessing data and interacting with data within Target, and that's for sure a very important step on getting more users to adopt the solution.
And I also think actually, just to answer your question again around, how do we, transition people's mindset to, BI not being a nice to have, but a must have, or a need to have, is that, very often BI is seen as like a cost driver, something that costs something for the company. But what the one looking for BI, or just responsible for data or IT within a company, should also consider is that BI is actually also there to save the company money.
And the revenue driver.
Yes, exactly. It can both drive more revenue, but it can definitely save some internal cost. Very often it's an indirect cost, because the time people spend on preparing Excel sheets, preparing copy pasting a chart from Excel to PowerPoint before presenting on a meeting, and then somebody else has a different number because they made a different Excel sheet. The time spent on preparing and discussing numbers, it will be reduced drastically as soon as you have a BI solution. So that that is a business case that you want to make internally, when deciding on BI, is how much time do we actually spend on the things that a BI, just a very simple BI solution, will solve us. So I think that is, as soon as you make that business case internally, you will see that it is actually a must-have, because we are both saving time and in the end also money. And then it's much more fun to to go into a meeting looking at the same numbers. You don't have to disagree with people because, like I said, you made a different Excel report than the one next to you. So having the same numbers, it will free up time to actually look at what's important.
I would say that, well, most of our attendees here are the ambassadors of Target in their company, so they are the ones with the goal, with the mission to drive a better user adoption and to make the BI investment worth it. And so if I could give you guys a tip, and as we've just seen, the same that works here for us is the same scenario that we are facing across the globe. The first step is the most difficult. So the first step is to have someone from the upper management convinced that it was time to invest in a BI solution, and you guys already have Target. The next step, as Alexander just said, is to search for a business case. So it can be pointing out the customers that are not buying from you on a periodic basis. It can also be a reduction of cost in one specific department, but go for the business case, because once you have that, once you have proven to the upper management and that the investment that was done is now a cost reduction driver, or even better, a revenue driver, all the other investments and all the other steps will be much easier. The problem is that sometimes when we have the solution and our first attempt is not to prove value at first. You're not, especially if you come from a tech background. Your first attempt will be to start building a very robust data warehouse, and it can come in a second time. So after you have proven the business case, after you have paid the investment, so this will certainly helping the user adoption. And well, we are starting to go to the end of our talk, and a very important topic that we must discuss today. I'm sure that most of the attendees are very curious about it, is what kind of challenges and opportunities you guys see when you take a look at the global market as a whole, especially when we're talking about the BI and analytics. What kind of challenges and opportunities are you guys seeing right now?
I actually think that the challenge and the opportunity is the same, because I believe that by saying more data, that probably covers both. That's an opportunity. To have more data available. The more data you have, the more you can fill in your solution. But again, the more data you have, the more difficult it can be to also, it also it can add complexity, but it also increases your responsibility. You need, as responsible for a BI solution, you need to decide on what's important, because at some point you can have too much. You can have too many reports going out. You can have too many dashboards because you want to cover everything, and that is not necessarily the goal here. It's not to have as much as possible covered, and it's not to use all of your data for everything. It's to decide on where can I, with my current resources, add the most value to the company. So I believe that, you know, data is really both the challenge and the opportunity here. Like I said, I don't think that you know, the economy is, you know, neither nor. The economy is just, I mean, it is how it is. Sometimes the economy is good in a country or in a region, sometimes it's bad. But no matter what, you know, you want to run your business. So even though, you know, you're making a profit, or if you're making a minus at the end of the year, you know, BI can assist. So it's not like there's only room for BI when the economy is good or when the economy is bad. There's always room for BI. So I actually think that, you know, having the right data in place, that is the main thing. And one more thing that is also important is to make sure that you know, by having more data available, and that is inevitable, you know, there will be more and more data going into BI solutions. So it is very important to make sure that your users are also educated, you know, that they actually know what the numbers mean. So, you know, you're the one, I guess most of the participants are the ones, you know, responsible for the BI solution. So you're the one who know what data is going in, you know, what does this number mean? So educating your users in these numbers can also,
Training
you know,
sessions.
yes, yeah, exactly. But it's also, you know, it comes down to data literacy. You know, do you know what it means when we talk about, I mean, here in TAG, we talk a lot about ARR, for example, annual recurring revenue, being a SaaS company. So, I mean, if our sales reps are not 100% sure, you know, what is the definition of this certain KPI, it's very difficult, you know, to steer towards a goal if you don't know exactly what it means. So having a you know, very well-defined KPIs that, you know, not only you who designs the dashboard and decides on what is in the solution know what it means, but also the users. I mean, it's so important that the users and the ones, you know, receiving reports, etc., knows exactly what does this mean. If this numbers increases, what does this mean for the business? If this number drops, what does that mean for the business? So educating the users is becoming more and more important as, yeah, like I said, more and more data will probably go into your solution.
Certainly, we have wrote, I think it's by the end, it was the end of last year, we wrote an ebook on data literacy, and this is a must-have. This is something that you must do. So I don't know, Gabriel, if you could share with our attendees the link to the ebook. I think the name, it was something like the ABC of data. It's an ebook on data literacy, and it can sure help our participants, and it would be very nice if we could share it with them. Alexander, I have one final question. I know you're not from the product team, but I'm a fan of Target, and so are the other participants. So, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but if this is not the first time, it is for sure the first time in a very long time that we have someone from Denmark, from our headquarters, talking to us. So any spoilers of what is coming next for a Target Decision Suite? Any ideas of what is coming from in the roadmap for Target?
At this point in time, I can't spoil too much. What I can say, however, is that as you may know, you know, for the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of the resources, almost all of the resources in the development and in the product team has been involved with, you know, 2 things. One is rewriting the product, you know, going from one type of code to another. And that is, especially if you are, you know, looking at the front end of a product, it's not very sexy. You can't see any difference whether it's, you know, written in one code or the other. So it's usually not something that you know, makes people cheer a lot. But that is one thing. The other thing is, you know, we now have a cloud solution up and running. So that's also an option that we see, and that's also, you know, something that is very much trending in Europe and in North America. You know, that is the way or the direction that customers tend to go. You know, they don't want to host everything on premise themselves. They want to cut, you know, cost. Sometimes, you know, you can actually, you know, spend, you know, you don't need the same IT resources maintaining your own, you know, servers, stuff like that. So the cloud solution has taken a lot of attention for quite a few years now. So the rewrite, the cloud solution, but again, those two things coming to an end, you know, almost being complete now, means that we now have much more time again to actually start working on, you know, new features that are a little more sexy for the end users. So that is what I can promise you, that, you know, the frequency of new features that are, you know, exciting to look at both for the designers and the consumers will start coming. Yeah, again, with a much higher frequency. I know for sure that a few will be released in Q4, and I can't tell yet exactly what it will be. There are a few different options, but there will be released some in Q4, and of course, all of the latest features will always be available for, you know, either the customers on a cloud solution or the ones on the latest version. So being on the latest version, of course, that helps you being, you know, up to date with the latest features on the product. So that's, I would say that is my suggestion. You know, ensuring that you're on the latest version, because features will start coming with a much higher frequency. And we've wanted to, you know, all of our you know, sales reps and account managers have been, you know, thirsting for new features, because it's much easier to sell new features than you know, saying that, okay, somebody was, you know, rewriting some code in the background. No, nobody really understands that from a commercial side point of view. So we will start releasing much more features moving forward, and I'm sure that I'll be able to tell you very soon exactly what those will be.
That's very exciting to hear, and I'm already anxious for the next quarter to see some of those new releases. And yes, guys, Alexandra just gave a very important message. Stay up to date. So check the version you are and update it. You know, and we guys can help you with that. So don't miss a new feature, don't miss a release. And yeah, so I think that was a very good talk, Alexander. And if I could just summarize in a sentence, that there are not so many differences from both regions, and at the end of the day, what really matters is how your company faces the data challenge, and how your company invest in it, and especially what you, as the ambassador, as the project leader on the BI in your company, faces the problem, how you are generating value for the company you work with. And yeah, I don't know, Alexander, any final message you would like to send?
I just think that it's important that you take, you know, ownership of your solution, and don't see it as something, you know, static. You know, a BI solution can evolve, and because everything else evolves all the time, you know, CRM system changes, ERP system changes, usually for the better. So I mean, and like I said, data becomes more and more available in all forms. So making sure that you have, you know, the things you need inside of your solution, and, you know, keep on educating the users, because in the end, it is the one looking at the data. Those are the ones making the decisions. So those are the ones, really benefiting from the solution. So making sure that everybody who has access to your solution really sees the full value also makes your solution stronger.
Excellent tip for our users. So yeah, let me see if there are any questions. No, I think there are no questions. You guys can just see a satisfaction poll we have just launched, so we can evaluate what you find of the webinar. And Gabriel, any message, any important message we should present?
Just remind everyone about the other panels.
Oh, great! Yeah,
so great.
So guys, stay tuned. We still have 2 more panels today. One of them will be the live case of our customer Uniagro. So they will demo how they're innovating in their business with Target, and that will be at 2 o'clock, and at 4 o'clock we will give a very wide and deep demo on Target, so you can take a look at all the features that are available in the version. So Alexander, thank you very much for your participation today. I know that you had just to quit a very important and urgent meeting to be here with us, and I appreciate your effort. I'd like also to thank all the attendees that were here with us, and yeah, thank you very much, Alexander. Thank you all. Stay tuned for the following of the event.
Thank you.
Bye, Alexander. Have a nice week, and thank you again.